Hey, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he's got an investment property that he wants to sell for profit because he says he needs the money. Look, he paid about $100,000 for it, and it's worth about $300,000 now. So he's got, you know, $200,000 of equity in there, and he's saying that he wants to sell it for profit because he needs the money. And I said, you know, why are you selling it for profit when you can refinance? And he sort of didn't know what I meant. Look, if you sell an investment property for profit, first of all, you've got the agent's fees. You're looking at, you know, 2 to 2.5% of the value of that house. So on a $300,000 house, his example, you're looking at 7 or 8 grand. And then you've got capital gains tax as well. Now, capital gains tax, it depends on what entity you're buying, whether it's a company, trust, partnership, your own name. But for the argument of this example, he bought in his own name. So he was exempt, 50% exemption of the first half of capital gains. And in the end, he still worked out, out of that example, the $200,000 capital gain he made, he was looking at about $40,000 capital gain tax he had to pay to the government. So all of a sudden, the profit that he was going to make isn't looking so good. Like he's looking at 200 profit, now it's at 150 by the time you take out capital gains and agent fees. If you refinance, it's a different story. Refinancing, most banks will lend you 90% of the value of that house. So the house is worth 300, they'll let you borrow 270. So you can take the money from what the previous loan was, which in this situation 100,000 up to 170. So you can pull out that $170,000 and you can do whatever you want with it. You can go on a holiday, you can buy a house, you can buy a car, you can do exactly the same thing that you were going to do anyway by selling the property. But in fact, you're actually better off because you're making, if you sold the property, you make 150. If you refinance, you make 170. But here's the kicker. That property will reproduce for you in the future. Once it's sold, that's it. In the future, let's just say 10 years time, that could be worth $500,000. So you do the exact same thing again. You can refinance at $500,000. What's that? That's $450. Take out the difference from the $270 to the $450, and that's $180,000. You can do whatever you want with that again. Now that's what the big players do. That's what Robert Kiyosaki, Donald Trump's do. Trump does it to quite a big big scale. He does it to hotels and golf courses, and Kiyosaki sort of does it to condominiums and things like that. I actually listened to Kiyosaki 2 years ago in an event in Melbourne, and he was saying the exact same thing. The numbers that he was using were was a massive scale, and it's a lot bigger than just your average sort of investor. But he was explaining exactly that and saying that is what he does. So the next time you're in a situation where you can either sell your investment property for profit and try and cash out there, you are better off. If everything lines up, you may have to sell it because either you don't want it, or the banks tell you to sell it because of serviceability and things like that. But most of the time, the case is going to be, you're going to be better off keeping it, refinancing, pulling the money out, doing whatever you're going to do anyway, and then keep it. You can even keep some money from the refinance to pay the repayments and things like that. If there's a shortfall in the rent you're going to be receiving, and then just keep refinancing. Every, doesn't have to be 10 years, but every so many years, and depending on what the market's doing at the time. So there you go.